What's going on, guys? So this is an interesting video because this is not the video that it should have been. Now, I know a lot of folks have been following along in the series of videos where we plan on testing the suspension shock absorbing hitches from various manufacturers, and we'll go over those in a second. But the reason why this isn't the video it should be is because I actually filmed all this already, but ran into some technical difficulties and opted to shoot it all over again. All right, so what was the problem? First problem was after we loaded all the weight onto the trailer, and if you've been, again, following these videos, you know that we filled these huge bags. These are bulk bags with sand, and we were trying to dial in the front tongue weight to around 2,000 pounds. That was kind of challenging, believe it or not, because we were only able to move this weight so far forward or add more weight to the bags, and I really didn't want each bag to be at its maximum capacity. So I spent some time moving dirt around, moving sand around to try to get exactly where I needed to be, so whenever I loaded these onto the trailer, we could get right at 2,000 pounds. So yesterday, when I came out here to start filming all this to try to get this video content for you, I realized that I was only at about 1,800 pounds, and that wasn't where I wanted to be. So again, we are at 2,000 pounds now. We have a lot of weight on the tongue. We use the BTBRV tongue jack scale right here to check that out. This is so much weight, conventionally speaking. When I talk about conventionally, that's off of the back receiver of your vehicle, not the fifth wheel or gooseneck connection, that it exceeds almost 90% of pickup trucks' conventional weight capacity in terms of towing. Sorry, I got a bunch of sandhill cranes flying over me right now. But yeah, this is, again, over the weight that most vehicles are supposed to be able to carry, most pickup trucks. So if you have a 1-ton dually pickup truck, you may have the capacity to be able to carry this much weight conventionally, but there's not going to be a single half-ton truck, and there aren't too many 3/4-ton trucks that can do that. There are a few, but for the most part, most of them are going to be 2,000 pounds or less, or well under 2,000 pounds. That said, we have a lot of weight back here, and yeah, this is the type of weight that you got to be really careful with. The coupler we're using is a Demco Easy Latch coupler rated at 21,000 pounds, and it's rated at 2,100 pounds worth of hitch weight capacity, maybe even a little bit more than that. So we're in good shape. We're using the correct bolts, the correct attachment methods for all of that as well. And the first test we're going to do is going to be kind of interesting because we want to get a baseline. So let's talk about what we're going to do to get a baseline. Okay, so we have 5 hitches in front of you, and each hitch is going to get its own video. So we're not going to try to cram them all into one video because I don't think that would be doing the right thing and really talking to you about how each one is performing and the type of feeling that we're getting out of each hitch. Now, some of these hitches don't have the capacity to be able to support the total weight that's there right now, and that specific hitch is the CURT. So that CURT only has a maximum capacity of 15,000 pounds and 1,500 pounds worth of tongue weight. So that one will go last, and we will remove one of the bags of sand when we get to that specific hitch. But the baseline is going to be really important. What do I mean? I mean, we need to establish what the ride is like without a suspension hitch. Basically, a standard hitch that's going to give us all the feeling, everything transferring from the trailer to the vehicle or the vehicle to the trailer. And that hitch is going to be this GENY Mega Hitch. This is rated at 32,000 pounds with 3,600 pounds. Let's see. 3,500 pounds worth of hitch weight capacity. So it is more than capable enough to do the type of testing we're going to do today. This shocker HD is rated at 20,000 pounds, towing 2,000 pounds worth of hitch weight capacity. You can see the grease and the wear on the ball because we did a lot of testing with all of these yesterday. We have the GENY Boss. This is the torsion flex hitch. This thing is a beast. It is rated at 21,000 pounds tow capacity with a 2,400 pound tongue weight capacity. And this one right here, as well as this one right here, and even the shocker are the reason why we have so much weight right now. If you are looking to buy a GENY hitch, you have to be sure to get the one for the type of trailer application you're going to be towing. If you just get the biggest, baddest GENY hitch on the market, you likely will not experience too much shock absorption, mainly because you won't have enough weight on the tongue to activate that shock absorption. Basically, inside of here, you're going to have rubber beads that surround a tubular square solid tube, and these twist or torque against that. And that torsional effect gives you your shock absorption, very similar, actually exactly the same as torsion axles. So in order for you to really get the benefits of this, you have to get the one specific to the weight class of trailer you plan on towing, and even more specific to the tongue weight. They have a 10,000 pound version, a 16,000 pound version, which we actually have, and we may do testing with that, as well as a 21,000 pound and a 32,000 pound version. All of them have different ranges in terms of what's perfect for the shock absorption to actually go into effect. And on this specific one, you got to be like 2,000 pounds. You could be over that. You can be up to like 2,400 pounds. But if you're too far underneath that, you're not going to see a lot of shock absorption effect. And I experienced that firsthand when we were doing the testing yesterday. One of the reasons why we're retesting it is because I didn't like the level that the truck and trailer were sitting at once I lowered the weight onto the back of the truck. We had some chains dragging. I did not want to do that. So we went ahead and reset the testing and wanted to get all of this set up in a better way. So there's a lot of time and effort that goes into a video like this, and I just wanted you to know why we're reshooting this. Next to it, we have the Bulletproof hitch. Now, this is like their extreme model, 36,000 pound tow capacity. It's like 6,000 or 6,500 pound tongue weight capacity. It's absolutely insane. But on the front of it, we have, I believe this is their 22,000 pound rated road suppressor system. Essentially, it is a pivot point right here with rubber, and this thing rocks, and you can actually see how the balls are angled back slightly to accommodate for that. So this one can also handle the heaviest load. So this is also a reason why we're at the weight that we're currently at. Right here we have the CURT. This is the Rebellion XD. And yeah, this is kind of a cool setup as well, but it has a compression system right here where that rubber isolator right there compresses and it pivots on that point right there. So kind of a similar fashion. The reason we only have one pin in on this one is because there is a rubber bushing back here. It's kind of an anti-rattle device, and you have to have a lot of weight on the tongue for it to sit back far enough for you to even throw that pin in. So we have to get it on the truck and then get some vertical downward pressure on it for that one to go into effect. But this is what we have set up in front of us. What we're going to do today is set up our baseline, and our baseline is going to be with this GENY Mega Hitch that has no suspension or shock absorbing characteristics built into it. And we're going to run this one, see what our baseline looks like, see how everything feels. Then we'll come back and we'll swap to the next hitch. So let's get this thing hitched up and let's get on the road. Now, if you've wanted to see an F450 squat, you're about to see an F450 squat. This is a lot of weight, even for the incredible weight capacity these trucks have. Here we go. Yeah, I'd say it probably dropped about 2 inches. I'm surmising, but we're off the ground now. At least the tongue jack's off the ground, so we're ready to get all the chains connected, lights connected, and get on the road. Okay, so we got everything connected. And a little trick I use just to keep the chains off the ground is I grab an old coat hanger. Actually, I buy these coat hangers on Amazon. You can get a bunch of them for super cheap. I simply loop it around the top of the receiver and make little hooks so it holds the chains up. And I've never had a scenario yet where the chains have come off, and it just keeps them from dragging on the ground. But we are ready to take off. We have everything connected, everything pinned up in place. We are safe to go. Let's hit the road. Okay, so I'm not going to talk a lot during this part of the video because I want you all to be able to hear and kind of see what's going on. I'm actually collecting G-force information, which I will show you at the end of this video, which gives you a good idea of where the harsh areas of this trip were, but you're going to be able to see and kind of hear it at the same time, as well as see, I guess, the lack of suspension and articulation built into a hitch that isn't designed to move, and how that could easily transfer a lot of shock and vibration into the cab of the vehicle. But because this hitch has no type of shock absorption built into it, you're pretty much relying on the suspension of the trailer as well as the suspension of the truck to be able to soak up anything that is transmitting in between the two. This specific setup right here is really what most people probably have. Now, I'm not saying the GENY specifically, but a non-shock absorbing hitch setup that basically allows you to tow conventionally, whether it's a travel trailer, a utility trailer, a cargo trailer, a flatbed. It doesn't really matter. If you're hooked to the bumper of your vehicle, this is traditionally the type of hitch that you might have. Now, that said, this little trip we're going on, I call it the loop, is going to consist of a lot of different types of road surfaces. We transitioned from a rutted drive area in the grass to a paved area that's in pretty poor shape. to a paved area that's in reasonably good shape, to a paved area that is rutted out and in absolutely horrible shape. I don't think a manufacturer could have built a test road in as bad a shape as this specific road's going to be, and we'll turn onto that road here shortly. Then we'll transition to a highway with 45 to 55 mile an hour speed limits for a short period of time onto another pretty horribly paved road that's been definitely in need of maintenance for some time, to a slightly smoother road back to the property. All in all, this should give you a pretty good idea of what you're hearing, the type of clatter between the trailer and the truck connection, as well as an idea of the type of shock that's being transferred to the truck itself, with roughly 2,000 pounds worth of tongue weight being applied to this GENY hitch, again with no shock absorption. So hope you enjoy the video real quick. It's essentially to give you an idea of what you're going to see in here. Okay, so on this road, it is kind of interesting to see it from a hitch perspective, because what's happening inside of the truck and also what's going on the trailer is definitely a lot rougher looking than what you're seeing in this video. But you can certainly see the articulation taking place between the hitch and the coupler, and that should kind of clue you into how rough this road actually is. This road is significantly rougher than what this camera angle lets you see. So now we're transitioning to a highway with speeds of 45, then increasing to 55, and there's not a lot of action going on here, but you can definitely see that the connection is smooth. This is ultimately how you want a connection to be. There wasn't a lot of vibration being transferred into the vehicle. You could definitely tell you were towing a trailer with heavy tongue weight, but nothing extreme, and this is typically an area where the hitch isn't going to make a huge impact in terms of a smoother ride. But the road we're transitioning onto now is definitely more of a rutted paved road that is in dire need of maintenance, and you're going to hear the trailer clanking around quite a bit. Okay, so now we're turning onto a paved road that has some ruts in it, and those ruts can create kind of a sharp jarring effect. And it's actually a really good demonstration, because as you hit them, it's kind of all of a sudden, and some of those types of rough patches in the road can really test if a suspension hitch is working and functioning the way it should. So again, this video was to capture a baseline evaluation of how a hitch without any suspension articulation was able to perform on this 6-mile loop. So we were able to gather a lot of data. I was able to determine how it felt, as well as the G-forces involved, and I was collecting that during this drive. I also was really trying to dial in what specifically I was feeling while I was towing over certain terrains, what I considered to be excessive shock, what I considered to be too much jarring, what I considered to be something that would cause discomfort or fatigue on a longer trip. And that's essentially what the goal of a suspension related hitch is to help mitigate some of that. So not having a suspension hitch on, establishing a baseline, I think was really important, and I think I have the data that I need to make a conclusive recommendation on if I think any of the suspension hitches are going to truly make a positive impact for the owner. Okay, so what did you guys think? You know, this was just a traditional, conventional towing experience, just with a ton of weight, literally a ton of weight resting over the back receiver of a vehicle. This is a lot more weight than, again, a lot of people would ever use. I would probably guesstimate that the amount of weight we had back here was the equivalent to like a 14 or 15,000 pound destination style travel trailer. That's essentially how much weight we have resting over the back of the vehicle from a tongue weight transfer perspective. We put as much as we could to get up to 2,000 pounds, maybe even a little over 2,000 pounds, just so I could kind of demonstrate what this would be like. Now, with a non-shock absorption hitch, it's your pretty typical towing experience, right? It's a lot of harsh bumps, a lot of I don't want to say bouncing, but definitely a lot of harshness and spikes and sharp, quick reactions and things that you can definitely feel. And if you tow like this for a while, you can definitely get pretty tired and fatigued doing it, especially if you're going over some really rough roads like the ones that we were going over. When we first left the property, the road is paved. It's not too bad. It's not a great road, but it's not a horrible road. But when we make that first turn, that road is terrible. It is absolutely one of the worst roads ever. It's the road my wife dreads me taking whenever we are going to or from the property. It is a ranch road that has been rutted out because of gophers, really, and because of lack of maintenance. The fact is, it's a country road. It is a paved road, but it's just not been maintained, and gophers that run underneath it just make the road collapse, and it is super, super, super violent whenever you're going down that road. And it's definitely the type of road that can test the suspension of a vehicle, let alone a trailer connected to a vehicle. But what do you guys think? What did you think of the overall towing impression from what you saw? Now, I will, at the end of this, show you the graphical data and what it looked like, where all the sharp peaks were, where we definitely hit harsher bumps and harsher areas. And we're going to try to record that for each one of the hitches, so whenever we're done with all of this, we can do kind of a side-by-side comparative analysis. But again, this is how I've always towed. I've always towed with a non-shock absorbing hitch, so it's nothing new to me. It is definitely the normal experience. Even if you're towing with a lot less weight than this, it can still be kind of harsh. But for the most part, it's manageable. If you have a travel trailer, though, if you have an RV or if you have a cargo trailer with something that's inside of it that could get damaged, you know, having any additional shock absorption aside from just the suspension on the trailer is going to help, right? It's going to provide some level of dampening that wasn't there before. Who knows? It may keep that last nail or screw that's barely biting into a wall holding something in place from coming loose. But we're going to move on to the next hitch. You're going to have to definitely stay tuned to that video to see which one we test first. Of the hitches here, and again, we have some other hitches inside that we can probably throw in as well, but of the ones here, I'm definitely going to want to stick with a hitch to where I don't have to remove any of the weight on the trailer right now, which means it can be any one of these three. If I go with this one over here, I'll have to remove weight, otherwise I'll be way above what it's rated for. And if I go with the 16,000 pound Gen Y Boss that I have inside the shop, I'll also have to remove weight. So we'll probably save the lighter duty ones till the end. But which one do you want to see next? Anyways, guys, if you haven't had a chance, now is a great time to subscribe to the channel so you can see the next video, which is going to be the first shock absorption hitch test video in this series. Again, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.